Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone, wherever you may be tuning in today's episode from around the globe. We're here at the 2024 ARA show in New Orleans, Louisiana. I'm absolutely pumped and super excited to not only be sitting down with today's guest, but also to be back here in the United States for an absolute jam-packed schedule over the coming days, sitting down with some absolute icons, legends, and leaders of the global rental industry. Today, I'm sitting down with Beth Hoff Blackmer, owner and president of Aspen Rental, based in Aspen, Colorado, a second-generation rental store owner, the second ever female ARA president, and the 58th president of the American Rental Association, an avid outdoorswoman, enjoying Colorado mountain hikes, horseback riding, a dog lover, and the Aspen skiing lifestyle during the winter months with her husband, Kent. I'd like to firstly pass on a massive welcome and thank you to Beth. Beth, thank you for coming on the Rental Journal.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
No, thank you very much. I initially saw you in Adelaide at the Hire 22 show, yourself coming over to the show, bringing an amazing presentation on your journey in the industry, your company in Aspen Rental, and also the American Rental Association. Firstly, how did you find your stay in Australia, and how's your time at the HRA show?
It was wonderful. I was the ARA president when the pandemic hit. So I officially became the president February of 2020, and so didn't have very long before things changed a lot. And one of the things that would generally happen the following year is you go to Australia, which of course that wasn't going to happen in 21 because you guys were very closed. And so I was very excited, and I kind of kept reminding them that I'd still like to go when the country opened. And so I was really excited that not long before Adelaide, but it did happen that we had time to get flights, and I was able to come down with my husband, Kent, and it was just, I just knew I wanted to go. I mean, it was one of those, the day I knew I was going to become president, that was like one of the big benefits was I was getting to go to Australia. So, we had a wonderful time in Adelaide. We went a couple days early. We do love cycling, so we got bikes and had some fun riding on the trail out to the beach. And each day we did that a couple times and just kind of cleared our head and got ready before the show. And then I met many of you. I knew some already, so thankfully I knew the Kennards and James before I came. So that was great, and unbelievable hospitality. So it was really, really wonderful. And it's just neat the way you guys do the show very differently than us. Obviously, smaller group of people, but like your gala at the end, we don't do that. But so that was it was fun. We had a great time.
Beth, you've been attending American Rental ARA show since the very beginning of your career, prioritising your involvement and putting a massive emphasis on the networking opportunities that these shows provide. Today being the Tuesday, the last official full day of this year's show in New Orleans, I'd love for you to give the audience a recap of your personal 2024 ARA show experience, the exciting moments so far, the main takeaways. Obviously this morning you had your Women in Rental event as well, which was obviously a huge spectacle of not only women but men coming together to prioritise the women in our industry.
Yes. Well, as you can hear in my voice, you don't know me that well, but my voice is getting a little scratchy, and I have a reputation for when I come home from the ARA show that I have very little, if no voice, by the time I get home. So yes, networking is still very high on my priority. Apparently I talk a lot and stay up late and everything else I shouldn't do. But I think this has been a fantastic show. It was very difficult during the pandemic when we couldn't have a show, and then we had, one out in Las Vegas, which was great, but it was just not the same time of year and everything. So last year in Orlando and then back here, it's just great to see the energy. I'd say the floor was very busy. The keynote was well attended. The education sessions, every session I was in the other day was full, and these rooms were seating multiple hundred people. So that was it was fantastic. And of course, as I've told everybody over the years, just the connection with everybody. And this time August will be 25 years for me in the business, so that's really amazing. So I really look forward to coming here and seeing what I consider my dearest friends. And I meet new people every year, and and there's always things I see or hear and go, aha, wow, and I would take that back to the business. And I love having people get involved with the industry.
Sure. Beth, it's an absolute credit to yourself, your family, and also congratulations on the amazing accomplishment of over 50 years in business. with the company being founded back in 1968. Like we've mentioned yourself, continuing the business as the second generation owner of Aspen Rental, a true legacy has been created with this business. Beth, to kick us off, I would love for you to break down who is Aspen Rental, the origin story of this amazing long-standing business now going into 2024.
Yeah, so it's fascinating. So my father used to actually work in traveling sales, and as the three of us little ones were starting to be going in different directions, my mother suggested kindly that he maybe find something else to do so he could be around to help. And so he actually went and looked in the yellow pages in the phone book in Denver to see what was down there, and he saw rental. So he picked up the phone and he called this number, and it turns out it was somebody he went to university with, answered the phone. He's like, the guy's like, I was in this industry. Well, he had forgotten. But anyway, so he came back up to Aspen with that idea, and it was very successful. He did event stuff at first. He had medical stuff. Roll-away beds for the hotels. Many, many things. But he, over time, just went, no, this is better. This is our better market. So we have only been in the construction side for decades. I actually never worked in the business as a kid, like so many do in this industry. So I was around it. I helped him do some billing on the monthly billing and things like that, but I didn't work in the store. So when I moved back to Colorado after having my own corporate career, I really wasn't sure what I was going to do next, and I wanted to be in the Aspen area. I wanted to be near them, and I had an opportunity probably to do something with something in the ski world, because I did ski race for 14 years. But in 1999, he informed me that his manager was dealing with glaucoma, and at 8,000 feet, that's a problem. So he needed to move down in altitude. And so he had given my father 18 months' notice. And so my dad decided to sell. And there was no communication. We had never had a succession plan in our family. I have two older brothers. Nothing had ever been discussed. And I went with them, and I was in France on a bicycle trip with some friends of theirs and my parents. And these two gentlemen came upon me on a little teeny road in the middle of nowhere and said, we've been riding behind you for a while. I was riding by myself, and we think you should take over the family business. And I was like, me? I don't know anything about construction. I was in the swimwear and activewear industry, like very different. And since you guys are from Australia, I actually worked for a small little company called Speedo. So I was doing national level sales with them. And I was done now, but I just never, ever thought I'd be in the rental business. So I thought about it, had sort of a sleepless night, and talked to my dad the next day, and he was thrilled. And his next sentence out of his mouth is, you got to buy it because you have siblings, and I don't think you want to be their partners if they're not going to be working there. I went, okay. So I did that. So I started there in the summer of '99, and then I became the owner January 1st of 2000. So this August will be 25 years for me. And it's just been a phenomenal run. I was very, very blessed early on to meet people at a software users group meeting that I met like 3 months after being in the business. And all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, there's all these people know what they're doing. So yay for me, because I had this amazing group that I could just rely on to teach me the industry. And then not long after somehow they found me through the ARA and asked me to be on a committee.
So Beth, like you said, obviously purchasing the business from your father in 2000, jumping headfirst into the company, running a business, enjoying a new industry in equipment rental all at the same time. Now more than 2 decades down the road, what was your, obviously, introduction to Aspen Rental, but being around the business from what I assume to be a young age to the development to your role now, what was the learning stages that you went through after purchasing the business to obviously you sitting in your position today?
Well, to be honest with you, there's a humongous learning curve because I have 450 pieces of equipment. We were much smaller back then, but when I first walked in the door that August day, I can tell you that I knew what the lawnmower did. And that was about it. So I was like, dang, I didn't know the difference between a hammer drill and a demo hammer. I didn't know what an aerator is. I didn't know any of that. So there was a lot of that. Was just first learning that I had a phenomenal staff. That was what the gentleman that told me on the bicycle was like. You've got a phenomenal staff there. That's they're gonna float you through. They're gonna teach you I'm like, okay, good. And my dad obviously was in good health and was able to, help me on the financial side as far as communications. And I, shared my books with him pretty much every day, asked him questions. So he was a great mentor for me that as well, although he didn't work anything to do with it in the day-to-day. And then, like I said, just meeting other people in the industry that really knew. So big learning curve, but I would venture to say I still do. I mean, I love it. There's still things I'm learning and hearing about, and obviously a lot of technology changes and things. This industry is incredibly evolving, and what I love to say to people that don't know really what we never do the same thing twice. I mean, every day is different. You're doing something different, and we have a great repeat clientele with the construction contractors in our area. But at the same time, you're never bored. Like, you're not just sitting there waiting for the day to end. You're like, wow, what happened? Like, I never even sat at my desk today. So.
That's right, Beth. We've both actually grown up with our parents owning rental businesses, and being raised by parents that own a rental company, it's very unique.
Yes.
What's your earliest memory of Aspen Rental growing up? What did it look like? What was your childhood like with your father being a rental store owner-operator?
So he was a pretty small operation, and he actually had about 3 flights up this set of stairs was where his stuff was. And he didn't have, he didn't own any excavation equipment or anything like that. He just had this, so there was chafing dishes next to saws. I mean, it was just very random. But anyway, and he was busy, and he was always busy. So somehow he ended up, some days he needed to have me go there after school. So there was an elevator, a freight elevator. And so I used to think, like the total score in the world. I was like, yay. So I just went up and down the elevator. So every customer that came, I'd go down. And I wasn't very quiet, as you might know with my little chatty voice. So I would chat all the way down. And my dad always knew I was safe because he could hear me chatting. And then I'd come back up, and I'd be like, so, I was 5, 6 years old doing that. And one day I actually sat down on the platform when it was in the opening. And I was swinging my legs and singing. And my leg got caught in the bottom of the elevator because I didn't get it out of the way as we came into the concrete platform at the bottom. And unbelievable, there was a car repair place right there, and so they heard my screams, and a gentleman came out with this crowbar and saved my leg from getting squished. But my dad also jumped. It was outside stairs, and he jumped all the way down. And so it's not a very good first memory of my work, being around the rental business, but I definitely have a very strong memory of going up and down that elevator a lot, but that one day didn't work out so well for me. But I broke my ankle, like the pressure on the bone, but I didn't have my legs, my skin was fine, everything. So, after that, I think I was probably kept in a little bit more close range. I don't think I rode in the elevator. I loved coming in and talking to the people that were in his store as a kid. I remember that very well. And then, as I said later, I remember in high school and that helping with billing, helping him get the statements out every month, folding the contract copies, and so.
Well, I'm glad the mechanic was there to save you, and obviously you were probably bubble wrapped in some regards getting moved into the office after the elevator incident. But Beth, Aspen Rental has been, as a business, I'm sure, so entrenched and ingrained into the equipment rental industry, and I'm sure now a cornerstone of your local construction community. How do you continually develop and approach business growth and expansion after more than 50 years in business, and what keeps you personally motivated to keep pushing for business success?
Yeah, when I very first got in, they had an ARA event in Denver, and I attended a meeting, a seminar, and the gentleman in the front of the room shared with us that 75% of second generations run their family business out of business, and I was about 10 days into the business. Of course, I had a heart attack. So I went up to the guy afterwards and said, "You just killed me." And he heard my story, and he said, "You'll be fine." I'm like, how can you say that? So I learned very early on, which was great, to just, don't make rash decisions, really trust the process that's already in place. if you make changes with good knowledge. So for that, I feel really, really blessed that I had that, and so I did make it. We've gotten into the mid-50s year of the years now, and that. But I think that always stuck with me is that and again, people in this industry, we share information like crazy. I've never been. My other industry wasn't like this at all. It's very competitive. We're competitive, but we talk to each other all the time. I'm probably on my closest competitors about 20 minutes away from me. I'm on the phone with them probably every week. We have all sorts of chats. So so that the fact that we have, and then yet always wanting to stay fresh, and I think that's one of the things the ARA has been so phenomenal for me is, I'm not there out on an island by myself trying to figure out how to run this business. I come to a place like the ARA show, and I have so much to learn and other people to hear from, and the education seminars are great, but and I still am not, obviously many gentlemen will come and they like to kick the tires and look under the hoods of everything. I've never been that person. As a matter of fact, probably one of the funnier things about my attendance at the ARA show is coming with guys and the people in the booth won't acknowledge me. And they'll finally go, by the way, she's the one you need to talk to. She pays the bills. And then they get all, So that was part of why we started Women Rental. We'll talk about that later. But so I've told people for years, I'm here, I've got things to buy and do that, but my main thing for me is learning from each other.
Sure. So staying up to date, staying on the front edge, and always trying to learn, you'd say, is the biggest thing you focus on. After 50 years in business, I'm sure it'd be so hard to move on, to find new ideas, but you're still trying to stay on that leading edge, and obviously the ARA has been a great resource for you in that.
Absolutely, yeah, and so many colleagues. And then I joined a peer group in 2007. So that's a group of 10 people. There's many of us in the country, but we meet twice a year in person, but we talk by text string pretty much daily. We solve each other's problems all the time. And that's definitely one of the best decisions I ever made with my business, is to be part of a peer group and learn from them and vice versa. So.
Beth, in a recent Rental Management magazine article, you mentioned the struggle of staffing, finding qualified and experienced employees, and the huge also time commitment associated with the initial employee training required to work in a rental store, like you said, with yourself having more than 450 pieces of equipment. What are the biggest challenges that you're facing as a rental store owner now in 2024?
Well, I think we're finally getting, we are staffed up. I tell you, there was about a year and a half there that we were having a very hard time. We would have interviews set up and people wouldn't come. It was crazy. We were going for months and months trying to fill one role. And right now we just put a position out and we had like 20 people apply within 2 days. I didn't think I got 20 people in 2 years, so maybe the tides have changed, I hope. But anyway, so we feel like that's softened or getting better. But yeah, when you have something like mechanics and that's very competitive, very hard to find them. Being a mechanic, as most people that listen to this podcast will know, in this industry, it's not a car mechanic. I mean, they have to know so many different types of things. So then that's there, and even as the guy that's coming in and going to pressure wash in the yard, to just learn all the different types of equipment, because we have so much. I'm a all-in-one. I mean, rental is true, because we go from like carpet cleaners to rough terrain telehandlers, that 20-some thousand pounds. So we have so many different things, and it's that is difficult. So, and I always tell my counter staff, like, we have the website up all the time at the counter, like same time. So if you're on the phone and you're starting to figure, you don't really know exactly, just get the website open, look at the pictures, have the people go to the website at the same time, have a communication through the website, like have them looking at it, you're looking at it, and then you guys decide which excavator you really need or whatever. And So, that to me was very helpful to make sure we always have things that can help people learn the business. But it's a number of years till somebody really has a grasp.
Definitely. Beth, myself coming from the hot and steamy island of Australia, our 4 seasons consisting of summer followed by basically 3 more summers. But after spending a bit of time in Chicago with Rental Max and also New York City with Durrani Rentals, I've been so interested with the seasonality changes of your equipment lineups and your fleet and your product to match the demand of your customers between the segments of your summer to winter months. What are these changes like in Aspen, the different periods you plan for during the year, and does this also impact, like we've said, this difficulty of initial employee training, them having to know the 2 different seasons and the equipment changes?
Yeah, so you probably don't own any ground thaw machines where you are. So, yeah, very different. And I can say there was some very sad winters there. I mean, it was some not much going on in those January, February months for us, our winter. But we have our busiest time of year is in the spring and the fall. So the spring, the snow's melted and people are wanting to go out and start working in their yards and doing whatnot. So strong focus to the lawn and garden and then into the earth moving as the summer goes in. Being that Aspen is quite a big resort market, believe it or not, we have a very busy resort business in the summer as well. So there's so many second homeowners and tourists in town that we have a flurry of work in the spring, and then there's a bit of a lull in the middle of the summer because they don't want to make so much noise, and when the second homeowner's visiting, they don't want people in their houses working and whatnot. So we have a bit of a dip in the summer, and then in the fall, another unique thing for those of us that live in an environment that freezes is we all water our lawns with a sprinkler system, but they will freeze, so you have to blow out. So every single sprinkler system in the whole area has to be blown out every fall. So we own a lot of air compressors, and we re-rent a number of others so I have about 18 compressors going in the month of October all over the valley. So that's a crazy time. We have to put it in a spreadsheet because the software can't see how many times they're coming in and out. We have this humongous spreadsheet. So, and they book a year in advance. I mean, it's a really big deal. And then we kind of go into the winter, and it's like, oh goodness. But thankfully, some smart person years ago came up with this thaw machine. So it looks like an air compressor from the outside, toe behind like a 185, but inside of it, it's got hoses that go about 1,100 square feet, in our case, or 1,200 square feet. We don't have the biggest ones. And they get laid on the ground, and then you cover them with visqueen and or concrete blankets, and then they thaw the ground a foot a day. So it's a game changer for keeping earth moving going all winter. The other thing is people use these machines to tent in like the construction site, so they're like a heater in a way. And I own 8 of those, and at any given time, they're all gone all winter. So and they make a nice chunk of change every day. So now we have a nice little winter market. And depending when winter decides to finish, they come back home, and we store them behind a building, and then we bring out the stuff and get ready for spring.
It's such an interesting part, obviously, of our industry being so diverse, with not only people doing different types of equipment, but just different environments as well, which has been a great part in the openness of our industry to share those stories. Like you just mentioned, an equipment line being so vastly different to somewhere in Australia compared to yourself and Aspen. Beth, Aspen Rental has been around and been an ARA member dating all the way back to 1968, with yourself being the second ever ARA female president, pushing for the prioritisation for women in rental and continually growing the opportunities and offerings for ARA members. Beth, you said that when initially joining the business in 1999, like you said, you didn't know anything about the equipment apart from the mowers that you offered. You quickly learned after attending rental events with other rental people, you observed their amazing knowledge and expertise which they were actually willing to share with others. You instantly raised your hand to volunteer and jumped at the opportunity to connect with more people, attending networking events, educational sessions, and ARA shows, which you said have ultimately led you to always implement something new in your business in Aspen. What impact has your involvement with the American Rental Association played on your personal development, your network across the country, and also the business growth of Aspen Rental?
I can't, again, I'm fascinated when I meet people, like if I go to a rental store and they don't attend the show, they just, they're running around chasing their tails all the time, but everybody's always busy in rental, but I'm like, how can you do this without like having all these other people there to help you? I mean, wow, because we have such a networking side of it. But yeah, I was, I was on the national board in 2012 to 15. I was the Region 7, which is Colorado, Arizona, Utah, and Wyoming, and New Mexico. So very big territory, nothing like Australia, but not very many people and a very big area. So when that time was finished, my 3-year term, I went back and was just running the day-to-day operations and never really thought further. I was still doing, some committee things. Or actually, I was put on the the ARA insurance board for a while. And then the phone rang one day, and they asked me to run for president. And I was like, did you get the wrong phone number? Because, like me, that can't be possible. But it was. And so that was the last year we had an election. So I had to work hard because the gentleman that I ran against is now our incoming president-elect right now, Robert Pedersen, who's a very dear friend of mine. When I found out that's who I was running against, I thought, oh, there is no way in the world I'm going to win this thing. So there's the book here called The Who's Who in the ARA, and that was like a Bible for me. I spent the whole summer calling people. So thankfully, I persevered, and then since then, I keep telling Tony and others, I'm like, we got to get him back in here. He's phenomenal, and so I'm so excited that he's next. But yeah, so it was really a great honor to come in and be the second female president. The other one had been 21 years earlier, and that's kind of crazy. And we hopefully will not be very many more years till there's another female president. But yeah, so that it was. And again, it happened during the pandemic, so that was interesting. So I didn't get to be in a normal presidency year. I didn't get to travel like they have been again now and what. But it gave us some time to really focus on the association. One of the big things we probably learned more than anything immediately is the difference between equipment and event. Because the day that the pandemic happened, the event industry was shut down. And the equipment industry, albeit like our construction sites were shut, but only for 6 weeks. And we were considered essential in the United States, so if somebody needs a sewer snake, they're not coming back, when the pandemic's over, they need it now. So we were never closed. I never had a day off. I was at my business every day. I had my staff. We did all the safety protocols. That was another thing we realized the ARA needed to help, so we came out with the Clean Safe Essential program, and they got everybody stickers, the 6 feet apart, and we had a whole program around for people while there were a lot of people sitting at home, to go get that, what they could do to be safe. And everybody had to change the way we did business. Most of us didn't have customers in our buildings. They could come to our property and we got them their equipment, but they didn't come in and, be out around us. So we were iPads and things and signing out through the doorway like it felt like I was at a McDonald's, putting the iPad out through the window. So yeah, we did a lot of things very differently, but it was also very fun in a way because we were figuring it out together. Like we were all just going, what can we do and making it better? Sadly, our event, both the other officers that were with me at that time were event people. So they went from, thousands to zero, like, whoa. So that was really, really rough. And we spent a lot of time trying to talk to the legislators in this country to get help for them because we all could go to do the PPP, but that was not a good thing for the event people because that was the whole thing there was for them to keep their employees. That was the promotion is that we'll give you some money to pay for your payroll. Well, these people didn't want to have payroll because they had no reason to be at work. I still had, employees coming to work. So that was quite an impact. And then I think that's also when we sort of realized like CERP is a certification that we have for the event people. And we really then we need to get one going for the equipment side. So we focused on so the education aspect that has changed since with what's called rental use since 2000 is huge. We just have massive amounts of education. And again, we all realize that the more ways to get more people in this industry and give them a career path is to have better education for them so they can get certification levels. And my favorite thing about the ARA is it's a member-driven organization, so they're so phenomenal. They just love to help us all be better at our businesses.
Beth, last year in Orlando, I actually attended the Women Rental Breakfast, which was an absolutely amazing event, a huge group coming together to appreciate, celebrate and prioritise the involvement of women in our ever-growing industry with a very engaging and hilarious speaker in Connie Podesta that year. You stated that during your time as president, your goal was to have a place for women to come together for networking, education, mentoring and leadership training. Now have tens of thousands of women being involved and engaged in the rental industry here across the US. With the Women Rental Breakfast at the ARA show starting in 2019, have grown and built every year of record numbers, that you're excited to connect and strive for a better together culture for women in the rental industry. Beth, what advice would you give to women joining our industry today in 2024?
Well, I think that we just didn't really know what we were going to do with it at first, but the United Rentals had a Women United, and we just knew there were some different groups. And so Rachel O'Brien, who I had been on the board with, and a very good friend, and I kept just talking. And when she was on the board, which was after I was on the board, she went to Tony and said, I think we kind of need to change the name of the top position, the chairman. And so she was really the first person, and they were like, yeah. I mean, at that point, I wasn't in the wings at all. I had no idea. So, of course, that was really necessary when I became chair, that I was the chair, not the chairman. So that was just a subtle thing that happened. And then she and I just kept kind of talking about it, and we had other friends talking about it, and then we thought, well, we should try and get together a group. So she and I actually have my shirt on here today because we had our Women in Rental Breakfast today, so this is our first year of our committee shirts. It was amazing when we came together, the similarities that we had experienced, like I talked about the booth situation. And when you walk into a booth with 50 men in polo shirts and nobody can turn around and look at you, and I'm looking for my rep and I'm not seeing him, and they're not acknowledging my presence, and they literally looked in, the guy says to me, do you need something? I said, I'm looking for Jeff. Oh, I don't see him. And he turns back into his group of 50 guys in the polo shirts, and I was like, OMG. So I actually texted Jeff and said, you know what, you just lost $30,000 order. So I'm not working with a company that does that. And so, but we just realized this, and again, it wasn't that we didn't want to be victims or anything, but we were like, wait a minute, we have a place here. And obviously on the event side, there's many women, but there's more and more women that are, the decision makers in the industry on the equipment side. And that I think has improved a lot. We did have some work with they sent out some stuff to the associates, like little education material for the next year, like, hello, don't forget who's coming on your floor. So that started, and we did start our breakfast. We were like 100 people the first year, and we had 700 and some people in the room today at the Women in Rental Breakfast. And I'm very excited to say we love having the men there. And today there were a lot of them. We were talking about it at lunch. I suspect we had over 100 men today. We don't know the number, but I mean somebody does. But it was fascinating to me today to say thank you for supporting us. And so we do today we had a speaker like last year's breakfast, and then we've also do our own conference in the same time that the YPs get together, the young professionals. We have a Women in Rental, which again, that is just women attending that. And it's just such a camaraderie and support. And, it's been great to meet these women who are like the only female in their whole organization. And they're like, this is so much fun to have like a place to connect with some other women that are in this industry. And so again, not that we don't love everybody, and I'm very inclusive, but I just think it's so great that we have that. We did, they recently came out with a track, so we have a women's track now that they can take through the Rental U, another little certification type thing. And it's fantastic. So that, just love that we have more and more offerings and more ways for people to get connected.
Talking about all these programs that the ARA runs, you've actually taken part in the ARA Foundation Mentoring Program, a development and empowerment tool to help people progress their careers from the guidance of someone like yourself, an experienced rental owner-operator, or even a manager for someone that's in a similar segment to themselves. A very personalised program to suit each mentoring experience based on these goals and specific career aspirations of the mentee. It's a very similar program that I actually took part in that we have back home in Australia. Beth, you've been a mentor to many new and future leaders of our industry, but for yourself, who have been some main contributors and mentors that have impacted your life, your personal success, and your business success after 20 years as a business owner?
Wow, there's been a lot. As I mentioned, I think when I very first went to the software users group and met all these people that actually ran rental stores, I was like, oh my gosh. So I had some phenomenal folks. Probably my first and most influential person to me was Jim Ziegler, who was put in the Hall of Fame last year. Unfortunately not here this week. But he opened his doors. He had me come visit his stores. He just opened door, showed me. He was on the same software, so showed me what they were doing there. I just remember seeing how he had the equipment stored in the yard. Everything was in tight, nice clean lines. I was like, so great guy. He also was one of the big promoters to get me involved with Colorado. When ARA at one point, the chapters were all kind of independents, and then ARA decided to make them, so we were all ARA Colorado, ARA California, so we had, and ARA oversees them all. And so when we re-upped the Colorado, I got involved with that, and I don't even live where everybody else lives. I'm 3.5 hours away from Denver, so I was driving down and going to meetings and things, and of course that was pre-Zoom, so I did get, now nobody even gets together, which is sad, but as far as meetings. But that was, I think that there, and then first time still today I was thinking about it. I don't know how Moline found me. I don't know who found me. Probably Jim told him, but to come and be part of a committee in Moline. And I remember walking in this room like, oh my God, all these people know what they're doing, and I'm like a nobody. And that was 2007, so I'd been in it for a bit. But I remember being scared to death. And as typical with every other thing you do in this industry, after about 30 seconds, that went away once I realized these people were all me and other people that were independents. And it was just such an honor. And I met some amazing people there that I still keep in touch with. And relationships, I have a phenomenal relationship with the head of Takeuchi because he was on that committee, and we still talk a lot. I just bought some equipment from him last week in Japan. So it's great that we have that. And then the peer group, as I said, that was probably the next, just knowing. For me, when I meet somebody too that is just got really great ideas and creative ideas, which there's just countless ones that are here in the building right now, that I just always go and talk to them because I just love, they always have something to ask, and I get a lot of that now too, so people are coming to me and saying, what are you doing, what's this? And I'm a big culture person, so we're following the book Traction and doing what they call the entrepreneurial operating system, which there's hundreds of people downstairs doing that in their businesses now. It's a whole way to work your group and your team and training. And I've had like 5 or 6 people today saying, I want to talk to you more about that. You always talk about it. I'm like, call me up. And Andrew Haysacker's doing it in his organization. And even though he's much younger than I am, I love learning from that kid every day. I knew his dad. He was one of the first people I met in the industry. He's from the Denver market and into Colorado. But now I love his energy and learning from him. So it's like going all over the place. So.
Beth, you mentioned before just some key pieces of product that you guys offer, but run us through your main product line, the services you offer, the actual customer base that you're focused on, the area that you service, obviously in Aspen, Colorado. Run us through all of these key parts of your business.
So the Roaring Fork Valley is a 40-mile long valley that for most of the year it's closed. You can get up and over a pass in the summer out, but So we only have a population of about 50,000 people in that whole 40 miles. So we don't have a big metropolitan base. We used to be located right up near the Aspen market, but the real estate is exorbitantly expensive there. So I needed more space. So I had to move the business 18 miles away. But we are still the closest rental store. We've kept the name Aspen. It's on my tag. It says I'm in Basalt, which is just another town down the way. But, and that I'm not in a town even. I'm on the side of the highway out in the middle of nowhere. There's only one highway, so that's fantastic. I get to be right, the contractors, most of us live down in that part of the world and come up and service the resort. So we have people driving by us all day, every day, anyway, on their way up to do the things up there. And then we do go the other direction as well. So we do the whole 40-mile valley. My dad figured it out long ago, and I would say it still stuck. We really have a huge remodel reconstruction business, especially in Aspen, Colorado, where people buy bazillion-dollar houses and then go do million-dollar remodels. It's insane. I can tell you stories like of bowling alleys, 4 levels down, swimming pools, things, everything built on sides of houses. These houses are humongous. It's an incredible market. So we're really blessed with that. So we do a lot of demolition. So we've got the demolition saws and the hammers and all that. We do many of those out every day on the small side of our business. Earth moving and material handling, like the telehandlers on the big side. Rent a lot of those. And then we do some homeowner business. When we were up in the Aspen market, we didn't do much for homeowner because there weren't many homeowners doing their own work up there. But down where we're located now, there's a lot of normal people like me that, do their own pressure washing and clean their own houses and whatever. So we rent a lot more to the homeowner market there. So ladders and pressure washers and, again, seasonally, like the aeration for the lawns and that. We definitely have a very different market, but I would say that the vast majority of my business is a small contractor. That's where our bread and butter is.
Beth, prior to today's episode, I actually did a little bit of research and noticed your LinkedIn bio, which states helping customers get their job done easily and efficiently with an enjoyable rental experience at a competitive price. Beth, so what importance do you place the relationship building process with your local customers, with Aspen Rental being a family-run business in your local area?
It's been huge. We have people who have been with my dad and been with us since my dad started the business that are still working. And it's great when some of these guys come in that I remember seeing in there when I was a little kid. So most of them are not working these days too much, but they might still just stop in for something to get. But I would say that we've been very, very fortunate, again, to be the rental store in that market. We do have the gentleman I told you about 20 miles away, that his dad started their rental store basically the same time my dad started it. Do you know our fathers never met? They never talked to each other once. I walked in there in 2000. I'm like, I don't know this business. I don't know who you are. These 2 guys didn't know what to do with me. They're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, hi, I just came to say hi. And that just started a whole different way that we work. And so we work very well with each other, and we get equipment from each other quite often. And he again is about that same market. We do have United and Herc and Sunbelt and stuff located about a couple hours away. So they do. You see the big trucks coming and going to the bigger commercial properties. But that has never been our center focus. We like that daily rental. We're not one looking to put a telehandler at a big building for 6 months. We let them take that because we can make a lot more money by day than letting it sit there for 6 months. So that's where we've kept our focus is to our local contractors.
Beth, the equipment rental industry is extremely chaotic, busy, and a whirlwind of a business to be a part of, which we've all experienced, but especially to run and to own. But taking a step back, you've been so extremely successful as a business owner within the industry, your time with the American Rental Association, as a proud business owner, wife, a dog mum, as an individual. How would you like to be remembered, and what's the best piece of advice you'd like to give to your younger self?
I would want to be remembered as is really engaging other people and listening to what people's stories are and learning from other people. I will never forget when I was getting married and we did one of those personality tests, and the minister says, "You are off the chart socially." And he looked at my husband and said, "You don't even make the chart socially, so it might be a bit of an issue in your marriage." And it's funny, 25 years later, we laugh about that still. And there are times I got to get the fishing rod off, to get him off the couch to go out to dinner. And then there's other times where, and he's very active, I shouldn't make it sound like he doesn't do stuff. But there's the other ones where he's like, "All right, come on home, stop talking." And so I like being a volunteer with this. I'm very busy with it always. And he just laughs like he's not here. He would not even want to try to keep up with me for these 5 days. And so, and every time I talk to him, he's like, "Yep, your voice is getting worse and worse and worse," because he knows I have just been going from very early to very late. So I think that, I would hope that people feel that I'm approachable and that I'm able to ask questions of and do anything. As Jeff Crotto said on the stage yesterday, I said yes. And I think that's I will always say yes. I will say yes to individuals. I'll say yes to the industry. I'll say yes to the association. My new role with ARA is ARA Ambassador, which John Bibbo, who was the president just before me, and as of last night, Doug Haas, who's coming off the board right now, we're going to be the first 3 ambassadors, but that's just to go out and help people learn about the industry. We'll go visit rental stores that are not engaged. I'm going to Canada to visit the members up there and get them up to date on what ARA is doing now. So it's very exciting, and I feel honored to be asked to do that. And my husband was fascinated that I said yes, and I'm like, you got to always say yes. I mean, it's such an opportunity to go be around more people. So anyway, he's humored with me on that. But I think that I am very, very excited, and I would hope that people know I'm approachable.
Beth, to close, I want to finish with the what's next question. For you personally, for Aspen Rental, what should we expect to see from you next? Obviously, you're continuing your trajectory with the ARA for many years to come, and what's next for the future, and how do you define success?
Well, there is a future for me that is going to be a change. I started working with a transition coach in 2022, and I approached my manager at the time in 22 whether he had an interest down the road to become the owner. I don't have any younger generation we won't have another family generation, which is sad in a way, but it's okay. But I really I knew I wanted to keep us like we are, still growing and everything, but I didn't really think we were the fit for going into a big corporation or anything like that as far as being sold. And so I'm really happy to say that my manager is now my business partner. So he came in and he is invested in as a small owner now. And he will, we are in a 3-year transition plan together. And so in 26, he's going to be in charge of the whole thing, and I will be backed out. And then so last year we did just whatever we did every day. This year I'm strategically teaching him much more about the transparency of the business, the backside of the business, moving him out of answering phones and things and moving him into learning the whole other side of the business. He's been doing the vast majority of the signing the paper downstairs and figuring out what we needed. And then I will continue to be involved with the industry. I will definitely still be coming to the show, which is a nice benefit that I get to keep coming back to the ARA show forever. And I will continue to stay involved even if I'm not running a day-to-day operation. I am still a mentor. I didn't really finish talking about that, but I absolutely love that. We just started again. I have a brand new mentee as of about a month ago. So we just started our next round. I haven't met him yet. Unfortunately, he was coming to this and he something got too busy at work, so he didn't come, which is too bad. But so we'll have a year with each other, and I will continue to do that as long as they'll let me do that, because I just love giving back. I define success as making every day the best that it can be. And my personal tagline on my personal email says, it's up to you to make it a great day. and that I know that I do that. I love knowing what I am doing every day to make a difference.
Beth, thank you so much for your wisdom, your time today. Congratulations on all of your successes. I'm glad that the Women in Rental event was a standout one again. Enjoy, obviously, tomorrow finalising the ARA show here in New Orleans, and congratulations and thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Well, actually, tomorrow's going to be fun, too. I have my ambassador hat on tomorrow. We're bringing a couple hundred kids. So we bring students that we want to teach them about the things. So we'll have a whole bunch of younger people on the floor tomorrow. I will be one of the people taking them around. They'll be in the ballroom getting educated about it, and they'll get given a whole bunch of nifty little swag, and then we have certain booths we're going to, and they'll get given more things, and so we're doing our little bit everywhere. We do that every show, and Wednesday morning, and get bunch of them on the floor, so it's pretty neat. So looking forward to that as a different thing, and then, so yeah, it's been great.
Amazing. Beth, thank you very much.
Thank you.